Hi, I'm Patrick Disney, and welcome to Western Window, a show made by and for students right here at Western Washington University. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about a project that's helping to restore native oysters to Fidalgo Bay. We'll talk with some Western alumni who are making a name for themselves catching waves around the world. And we'll learn more about this amazing new research in solar technology being pioneered right here at Western. So, stay with us as we explore our world through Western Window. Hi, welcome to Western Window. In studio today we have Dr. Brad Johnson, who is chair of the Physics and Astronomy department here at Western Washington University. And Brad, can you tell me just a little bit about your relationship with Western? How long have you been here?
So I've been here about 15 years. I originally started out here as an adjunct professor. I was actually a postdoctoral fellow at Simon Fraser University up in Burnaby, and one of the faculty became ill here and I came down to take their place, and that's how I got introduced to Western. And then I was on the faculty at the University of New Mexico for a year, and while I was there I sort of got to missing the place, and we arranged to come back, and I've been here since the fall of '97.
That's great. This explains your affinity for the Canucks, I understand.
Yes, yes.
So I understand right now that you're doing some, you're engaged in some research that's happening, that's going on right here on campus. And can you tell me a little bit about where that research is happening and what exactly it is? It sounds pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah, well, this particular project is a very large collaboration. There are 5 faculty members on the team and a whole host of undergraduate students and a couple graduate students, and we're focused on really developing a new technology for collecting, harvesting solar energy and turning it into electricity. Solar is going to have to take a main lead in that at some point. And so what we're really looking to do is try and reduce the cost. We'd like to be able to do a lot of power generation at the same kind of cost that we're doing it now with fossil fuels. That's really our goal.
Marginalizing impact environmentally as well.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Just talk to me about the opportunities for undergraduates to do this type of research here at Western. I mean, it seems like a pretty unique opportunity.
Well, yes, this is one of the things that really makes Western unique, I think, is that we feel that the opportunity to do a project like this, the opportunity to get into a scientific project where you don't know what the answer is, to try and be a part of looking at the answer to something important that has maybe something game-changing at the end of the day, is a major part of the education of somebody that comes to Western. I don't know what it is about Western, but it's been my experience in my entire time here that the students tend to gravitate toward projects like this one. They tend to be more aware of their surroundings and how they work and how they interact with them. And so I think this is one of those things where it's kind of a perfect storm where an idea like this meets up with a crowd that's ready. I think the students here are great. I think that they have the right outlook. I think that they're excited. And I think this is the right project for them.
That's great. So can you tell me a little bit more specifically about the technology? I'm a complete lay person, and of course the first question is it going to work up around here?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why we're looking at this particular kind of project, because if you think about solar energy, most people get a picture in their mind of those purpley blue things that they see on top of houses or beside the road, and what that is a photovoltaic cell, and what that does is it takes the little quanta of sunlight, and it converts it to electrons moving in wires. It converts it to electricity. Now, making that material is fairly expensive. Now, the cost, I should say, is coming down, but that's still an expensive thing to make if you want to make a large area to capture a lot of sunlight. So one alternative is to find another way to capture the sunlight, concentrate it into a smaller area, and use less of the expensive photovoltaic material. So our concept is to build something that's relatively inexpensive, can collect light over a large area, and send it to a small area. And specifically what we're looking at, the idea we're looking at, is to take specially designed and custom-made dye molecules and impregnate them in either glass or plastic and use those dye molecules to capture the solar light, transport it to the edges. So after it's been captured, instead of letting it go out the sides or out the top, we transport it along the plastic and out the narrow sides. And that would then allow us to put just tiny bits of photovoltaic along the edges, which would effectively capture and convert the same amount of sunlight as that whole area of photovoltaic material would, drastically reducing the cost. So the example I have here is just a single sheet of plastic, which has the dyes impregnated in it. And so I'm capturing the light from the studio here, and then if you look at this thing carefully, you look at the edge of that thing.
It's like it's glowing.
It looks like there's light coming out of the edge. It looks like there's maybe a light inside this thing. That's the whole idea. And the good thing is that this is capturing light from all angles. And so the idea behind using this in the climate around here in Bellingham is that even on a relatively cloudy day, the light can come from every direction. The diffuse light can come from every direction. It will be gathered by the dyes and then re-emitted into the edge. And that's one of the fun parts about doing demos of this kind, especially on a cloudy day. I can walk this thing outside on a cloudy day and this edge will be glowing so much you can barely look at it. The face of this thing can take a tremendous beating and still work well. You can actually drill holes in it, or you can put cracks in it, or something can happen and it'll still work really well. So it's very durable.
So where are you in this process here in terms of developing? Is this something I can go ahead and place an order on right now? Or,
well, unfortunately not today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to take your order just now.
Sure.
We're still doing a lot of the fundamental science. So we're still looking scientifically at the questions of synthesizing these dyes to make them so that they don't lose any of their energy between the absorption of the light and the emission of the light.
That sounds amazingly exciting to me. I certainly hope that you're able to bring us some updates in the next few years regarding your research, and we wish you the best of luck with that project. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for joining us and Dr. Brad Johnson of Physics and Astronomy here on Western Window. Skimboarding originated in Southern California, when lifeguards were looking for an easy way to get across the beach. But the sport has since exploded into an extreme riding experience, creating waves all the way up here to the Pacific Northwest. Well, a couple of recent Western graduates have caught that wave, and they're on the forefront of the business of skimboarding.
Almost 10 years ago, 4 kids from Tacoma set out on a do-it-yourself style adventure. Their goal was to build their own skimboards, helping them save money and engineer boards that met their specifications. Not only did they begin to build their own skimboards, but they started building their own ramps, jumps, and other equipment to help them tackle and innovate new tricks. Frequenting many beaches and shores around the Tacoma area, these boys started a cult-like following. Soon they were putting on competitions, selling their homemade boards, and starting a team that would go on to compete in skimboarding competitions around the state. It is clear that these 4 friends had created a movement. After high school, 2 of the boys came to Western Washington University for college. Isaac Thomas,
I'm Isaac Thomas,
one of the world's top flatland skimboarders, and Bryce Hermanson, a business administration major. Both are surprised at how big a following DB has become. From selling boards to friends to owning a warehouse, a shop, and an extensive website, DB Skimboards has grown substantially larger than any of them expected.
I'm Tony Sadler. I started skimboarding back in the 2nd grade, actually. We really just put this here because we moved into this larger warehouse and it had these front office kind of room already built. So we're like, hey, why don't we, put a little showcase of all of our skimboards out here, and then it transitioned to us making longboards.
Not only are they constantly creating new kinds of skimboards, they also have started making longboards, investing in some high-tech machinery that allows them to use even more sophisticated ways of making boards.
And we got our own heat transfer machines, so we're able to have the flexibility of putting our own graphics on all of our decks and kind of however we want to. Everything is done by hand by just a couple of the guys here.
Collaborating with local artists in the Pacific Northwest, DB has really diversified the look of their boards to suit anyone's taste. From longboards to an all-out board sports one-stop shop, DB surely can suit any boarder's needs when building or buying a board. When not running the shop, working, or skimboarding, the group is running a camp for young skimboarders to get more acquainted with the sport and for current riders to practice and refine their techniques. To many of the riders, it is apparent that this isn't a for-profit venture, although I'm sure that doesn't hurt. Their passion and originality with skimboarding is undeniable. Clearly they enjoy it almost to an obsessive point and want others to see the fun that a simple board can bring to any beach. Whether it is fun, exercise, or competition, skimboarding is something that everyone can enjoy. 4 boys from Tacoma had a passion, and from that came a community-based project that turned into a lifestyle.
Now, we all know that oysters are plentiful here throughout the Northwest, but what many people don't know is that these oysters are not native. Our own native Olympia oyster was overfished to extinction here in Puget Sound almost 100 years ago. Well, today, Western professor Dr. Paul Donnell and a team of dedicated students are working hard to create self-sustaining oyster beds locally. Now, this collaboration between Western Washington University and Skagit Marine Resources Committee is starting to show some real progress.
Oysters are awesome natural filters that clean the water that surrounds us, and they're tasty too. However, over 100 years ago, our native Olympia oysters were harvested to extinction in Puget Sound. Now, one man is leading efforts to repopulate Olympia oysters starting in Fidalgo Bay.
On the Pacific coast, there's one type of native oyster, and that's this little guy here. It's a fairly small oyster. A lot of the people came from the East Coast in Europe during the gold rush days, and they were quite used to oysters on the East Coast and in Europe, and it was a delicacy. So they proceeded to wipe out the native oysters in San Francisco Bay and then worked their way up the coast and did the same thing, thinking that it was an inexhaustible resource. And it might have been if they had left some of them behind and some of the restructure for the young ones to settle on, but they didn't. They pretty much wiped out everything when they took. Oyster beds or reefs form habitat. They form holes, essentially, in structure, vertical structure, three-dimensional structure where other animals live, such as small fish, amphipods, worms, crabs, and this gives habitat for these animals, which are then often at the base of food chain for other animals, such as juvenile salmon, for instance, that feed on amphipods and whatnot. I mean, you eat them raw, of course, and you can cook them many ways. Barbecued, baked oysters with toppings, all sorts of ways. That's how I got into this business. I like seafood from an early age, back when I was in about 2nd, 3rd grade in Florida. I used to bring home crabs all the time, put them in the bathtub until we cooked them. Really, honestly, that's how I got my start.
Students and volunteers from around Whatcom and Skagit counties are joining in the effort to bring back our native bivalve.
I'm Kaylee Gabriel Voorhees, and I am an intern under the COSI Prime internship grant through Western Washington University. I got it as a Whatcom Community College student, though I have since been accepted at Western. I didn't really know a lot about oysters before I started, but now that I do, I've learned that oysters are kind of the cold water equivalent of your coral reefs. They clean the water, they provide habitat, so they're a base point for your native species and the health of the area, and it's important.
The Fidalgo Bay site is the first native oyster restoration site in the north part of Puget Sound. When we chose this site, it's just a guess as to whether the oysters will survive, whether they might or might not be buried in mud when winter storms come and disappear. The big question is to whether they will actually spawn, and if they do spawn, will the larvae be flushed out into some place where they'll never settle? So there are a lot of questions biologically. The work is muddy, messy, involves lots of volunteers. We couldn't do this without a lot of volunteers. The objective here is to establish a natural spawning population of oysters that can then put larvae into the water, settle around the bay, and reestablish natural populations from a normal spawning population, so that we don't have to keep putting seed out all the time. And so far this site has been quite successful at doing that.
I'm outside, I'm in the mud, I'm helping make a difference, and as Paul said, and a lot of marine scientists, I'm not behind a desk. I'm out, I'm having fun, I'm in nature, and I'm making a difference at the same time.
So this is what you do, just count.
This is, yeah, just count and shift through. When you get to this is pretty thick with shells, and often you'll have more than one volunteer working together at a time. So you've got somebody who's got the notebook, who's not muddy and wet, to take down your numbers for you. You just dig through until you reach the bottom of your shells, and then you go another 10 feet and do it again.
We've used a lot of Skagit County Marine Resource Committee volunteers, Skagit County Beach Watcher volunteers, a great group, a large number of them have come out and worked on this project, along with students at Shannon Point Marine Center.
Students are especially easy, and then professors as well, to get them to jump on the train to restoring what we're all enjoying. You know, I feel a connection to the area. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and I didn't realize until this year that the oysters I ate on the beach as a child weren't native, and I feel kind of silly. So.
If we can't restore resources like this, habitats like this, then the health of Puget Sound is always going to remain in question.
So it's really people who are interested in the environment, interested in where they live, and want to restore it and just at least continue on at the baseline we're at, and hopefully improve from there.
I knew everything. I was the king of my own city.
The great thing about teaching at Western, at least for me, is the students. They are inquisitive, smart, hardworking, highly motivated, and as a teacher that makes my job much easier. In fact, they challenge me on a regular basis. You know, they don't just sit back and let me just feed them information. It's a collaboration really in their education, and both of us end up being educated.
There's been a few professors that have just poured into my life extremely well and have helped me out with classes, have helped me get direction and where I need to go.
And I liked how competitive it was and how everybody in the department was really serious and passionate about what they were doing.
And then even the students get together and you can make study groups and help each other out, and it's really easy to meet up after class to study for tests.
I walked alone on golden bricks until the ground rattled and crumbled to path. Now I'm just a lost
Not only do you find great academics here at Western, but something that's really unique to this university is their passion for the environment.
I think it's great to be part of a community that promotes environmental programs, also provides an education to help solve future environmental issues. With the San Juans, the North Cascades, and Seahome Hill all nearby, it gives students a great chance to take their learning outside of the classroom.
Hey, Mr. Scarecrow, teach me all you know. I guess I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Cannot thank Western enough for their support and just the Bellingham community, and that's something that definitely makes us want to stay in Washington State. Everyone is so welcoming and supportive of what we've been doing, and that has made so many things possible for Decidual.
Just after graduating, I ended up opening my own business here in Bellingham, and I have to say it's probably been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And if you do that and you have motivation and drive, then Washington will support you, this town will support you, and you'll get to a place where you want to be. And what that says to me is I'll never have to leave.
Hey, Mr. Scarecrow, teach me all you know.
Trailer Wars is an ongoing film competition based right here in Bellingham, which encourages local filmmakers to make fake film trailers based on a rotating theme. Every month, these trailers are screened and a winner is declared by audience vote. Now, this fun local competition is open to everybody. What? Is that a wrap? I wasn't done with my lines. Everyone's a director.
Trailer Wars is a local film event in Bellingham that challenges creative types and filmmakers to make fake movie trailers based on a theme. Everybody gets together and watches them, the audience votes on their favorite, and then the winner gets to pick the next theme. Voting is pretty loose. People bring their trailers the night of. We watch them all consecutively, and then there's a ballot. People vote, and then we go out, count them, bring them back, declare the winner, and then right there on the spot, they'll name the next theme. Trailer Wars started in someone's living room. We all decided, a few of us, to make fake movie trailers based on the theme of zombies, and then we tricked people into coming. We told them there was a party. So people came in and we said, oh, just Trailer Wars, it's not a party, sorry. And then the next time we did it, there was one more, and the next time there was one more, and after 5 or 6, eventually the Pickford let us do it there, and we've kind of been growing since then, and lots of places around town have been nice enough to let us do Trailer Wars there. At this point, this is number 24. We've done themes as diverse as musicals, like I said, zombies, we did westerns, 80s teen comedies, heists, sports movies, etc., all kinds of stuff. I think the cool thing about Trailer Wars is that it's open to everyone, no matter what kind of camera you have or what your experience level is. We encourage people to come out. We've had trailers shot on phones, iPhones, anything. The point is just to get out and be creative and have fun.
I was made aware of Trailer Wars from students in my cinema class, and my understanding is that it's predominantly Western students and/or alumni that are interested in the filmmaking process. Some of them work in the community. A dominant number of them are from the campus, and it's grown in popularity every single term that I've been here. But it's open entirely to the public, which is great, so students get to see semi-professional work as well. And it's a good time had by all, really.
Anybody who hasn't been to Trailer Wars before should definitely come, just because it's a lot of fun. It's a fun creative outlet for people around the community, and also like people who want to get into filmmaking, anything like that. It's a really great chance to get your stuff seen and get audience reaction and just to get experience of your own.
Make trailers. We do Trailer Wars every month, and so every month you can make a trailer.
Well, the best thing about Trailer Wars is it's very accessible, and it really inspires a lot of people to make things who wouldn't necessarily participate because they're intimidated by the filmmaking process. So what's great about this is I think it really draws a lot of people in to write and produce and direct and edit and try new things who wouldn't normally do that.
I've done a couple of Trailer Wars myself, for the Ghost Trailer Wars, the Ghost of Crazy Mike's, and for Film Noir. It's a great opportunity for Western students to be a part of something that's bigger than just the campus itself, but local-wise and big budget-wise.
It was a lot of fun, and it was really cool, and it was a totally trippy experience seeing myself on a big screen, but it was really cool at the same time, and it's really fun, and I met a lot of people from like the local area that are involved with filmmaking and performing, which is something that I want to do, being a theater major up here at Western, and so it was a really cool experience overall.
Are you going to be doing any entries?
I'm going to try, and it's going to be kick-ass, for sure.
Well, that wraps up this episode, but be sure to join us next time as we find out more about our world through a Western window.